you've woken up. Welcome back. So, I'm Danny.
I'm Chris.
Brian.
I'm Christian.
And we're a fantastic team for Tatapi. So, here's our app, and let's dive into it. So, let's first log in with a totally real password. This is a very real account and very real password. By logging in, we can see that we are, in fact, admin. We can also go ahead and play a game here. Ooh, look at this big old battle. Since we've played a whole bunch of battles with this one, we can just jump right in. We can see our previous battle history too. Oh, look at that. We killed that man right there. Wonderful stuff. Now, here we go. Oh, look at that. We made a miss. We can go ahead and we took some damage, but it's okay. It's okay. We dealt some damage. We did some fantastic stuff. Let's go back. When we hit back, we save the state. So if we come back in, boom, look at that. We're right back during this big, long, huge battle that we were just in, which is fantastic news. Now, if we go to the leaderboard, ooh, look, hey, look, these are other random players that are doing far better than we are. Look at us. We're third. It's shameful, but it's fine. Now, if we go ahead and we go to admin, here we can go ahead and see, we can modify some enemy stats since we're, wonderful, wonderful admins. Look at that. We can change their health. Let's make their health, 30. Why not? Boom. And now the whole stat page for the goblin, updated, much harder to kill. Fantastic news. We can also modify random users. Let's just check our own stats. Why not? Why not? Look at all these wonderful stats. Why don't we just, change our level? It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't question it. We're fantastic. Look how good we are. Now let's go ahead and pop right back out. Go check out the leaderboard. Nothing's changed because we haven't updated anything here yet. Boom. Look at that. We did so much more damage. 11 damage, whole 11. All right, now let's quickly talk about the fact that, look at this. We can go ahead and completely close the app and immediately come back in to where we were because it knows exactly where we are and it can log us right back in. Now let's log out. Let's go create an account real quick. Let's do a fun password and fun username because it's fun. Boom. We now have a fantastic new account called Fun. And anyone can do this, which is the easiest part of our app. And now they can go ahead and engage in a brand new battle with new enemies and possibly die. Who knows? But that is our app. It's wonderful stuff. Now, specifically for what I did, I created a lot of the skeleton stuff for most of the applications, as well as how we flowed from one application to another. I did the initial login system, so it'll log you back in if you've logged in once. And I also did just some random bug tracking down and random UI fixes.
All right, I'll take it from here. So again, I'm Chris. I mostly handled the game activity, which was the biggest portion of it. As you can see, there was a lot of things the user can do. Every time you click a button, it performs this function called execute turn, and it does all the things that this kind of game would need to do, damage calculations. It checks if the enemy died or the player died. Every time you beat an enemy, you level up, so stats change. It also changes the enemy stats, so it's a little tougher each time. I pretty much was in charge of getting all of that in place while the other half of our team handled all the back end stuff with the database with back for app and parse. And the vast majority of my time was just spent setting up the main gameplay loop, getting everything working, all the stat calculations, all that, making sure it felt good, making sure the player couldn't overwhelm anything by just mashing the buttons. I also added some handlers, which was new to me, so that I could make it so that when enemies attack you, it's slightly delayed. But yeah, that's about it. I will hand it over to Brian and Christian because they handled all the back end stuff.
As Chris said, I mainly worked in the back end stuff. So anywhere like what Danny has highlighted there, anywhere where you see data being saved or loaded to the database is kind of the general stuff that I was working on. I also handled a lot of the transition because when we originally started, we had kind of a mess of database systems. We were going to start with room to save locally and then save other stuff externally. What ended up happening was, we just removed all of the room stuff and ended up working only with parse and back for app.
Okay, so I also worked on the back end. I did things like the leaderboard activity, which keeps track of the highest scores of every player. It shows the top 10. And I had to do a back for a parse query with that. I also implemented the item system. The item's pretty simple, just 3 uses per game, and it just heals a bit of your health. I also did some bug fixes and other things like that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic stuff. Brian also went ahead and did a ton of work with the cloud code functions. So, Brian, you want to take over what happened here?
Oh, well, I think you're overselling the amount of work it was really, but it was more having to learn how to do it more than anything else. But yeah, the problem we were facing was parse does not like users being able to modify other user information. So in order to get around that, if you run code directly on the server and let the server do it, that's okay. So from the Android application basically calls functions running on the main server to update user information or even delete users.
Yep, it's super fantastic stuff. Yeah, other than that, so here is our GitHub repo, and we can see over in contributors, here's our contributions. My commits are a bit chunky, but just know a lot of them were dealing with Travis, which, as you can see by the little tiny red X, still doesn't work. So we weren't able to get it running, but here's a list of my commits right here. As you can see, a lot of them are just Travis, but there's that. Chris, here you go. Let's go. Boom.
All right, so we'll see a lot of my commits. I mean, I helped clean some stuff up, fix some bugs, and then most of the vast majority of the additions and changes were in the game activity, like I mentioned previously, because we saw how long that activity was. It's almost 600 lines, so a lot of code written there. But that was the vast majority of what I did was that, and then just little things like fixing bugs and things of that nature.
Here, let's take a peek at Brian's. Yeah.
Well, you can see at the top there, I added a couple of the admin activities, and I have a few little commits where I make little mistakes and I have to remove them. But like I said earlier, most of all this stuff is anything to do with where you load and save data. And in the beginning, where I had to modify a lot of Danny's login protocol stuff.
Yeah, because we had to switch from room to parse, and that involved a fair chunk of work. All right. And then here's Christian's little commit history.
Yeah, you can see one for the leaderboard, one for other back-end stuff, bug fixes. I also had one where I set up parse in the beginning, the first thing that we did with parse, just connecting it to the database. A little bit more sparse, but I tried to keep it with one commit per feature. So, yeah.
I wonder if we can go immediately check out Travis, because build has failed. Oh, yes, Travis can show it, because, we might as well show Travis, right? Here's some Travis stuff. As we can see, a very large wall of red. Now, I could show more, but it's red. Either way, we have Travis installed and doing stuff in the background, which is neat. All right, well, we also wanted to talk just a smidgen more about the initial look and feel of the app. We had a lot more to do and a lot more inside of the app initially. Here's the list of user stories we had at first. We decided to narrow it down because while it's a really cool idea for it, it also would take up a lot of time. I know personally, I am extremely proud of what we have. So yeah.
So I'll hop in here. So the main thing was the original idea. This was my original proposal. There was a lot more talking with the database for every single action the player would make. But as I thought about it, I was like, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to do that because, especially using free services, we're very limited with how many calls we can make at one time. So I was like, one of the things I thought about was like, well, you'd have to limit that. But I think ours worked out better, where it's just the only time it ever writes, it reads stuff that so that locally we can use that information. But any writing to the database is only when like you try to save the state by like backing out, and I think that's a better way to do it. A lot less, hard on the database that you're talking to. And then the other big thing is that we didn't implement an API from scratch. We initially thought that's what we'd have to do, but then we were introduced to back for app and parse, and that made it a lot easier. So we could just focus on getting everything up and running and working well, and less about the nitty gritty details of how do the endpoints need to look, how are we going to consume the endpoints, etc.
Yeah. And that would have been a lot of work. And unfortunately, I think we all took a little bit of an arrow to our elbows, and we couldn't be good programmers. Unfortunately, it was heartbreaking stuff. But with that, that's our project. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.